What's going on, everyone? It's Txpski, platinum producer from Toronto. Born in Toronto, now I currently live in Ajax. I've worked with artists like Chris Brown, Sada Baby, MIKExANGEL, Adidas, Jay Ali, many more. That's just a few.
Yeah, man. So that perfect introduction, honestly. People always ask me like what they need to do and stuff for that introduction, but that was actually a really good one.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. Look, one of the things you were saying right before we started recording was that that'll give this will give people a chance to get to know you, and to get into different sides of you, because people only see certain sides, especially with social media, I find. And like you said, you haven't done a ton of press. So this is cool for me because, as I was saying to you, that I'm still learning a lot about you. Like, I know you, same thing, through social media. I only see, a few sides, if at all. So take us kind of back, like where you exactly. Oh yeah, okay, word. Yeah. So take us back to your producing, journey from the beginning, and you can go even further back. You don't have to start with where the producing started, but just take us back, who you were back then and how the journey progressed to where you are now.
Man, I definitely feel like kind of where I grew up has a lot to do like with my musical journey. And so pretty much I would say the first time I really worked on music, I was in elementary school. I did like a remix, like an interpolation of like 50 Cent's Wanksta. And that was like the first time like I remixed it and had to perform it in front of the class. And that's the first time I really realized I had talent in music. I mean, I've tried to do the DJ thing before on the computer, but that wasn't like a musical effort. I feel like when I finally put pen down and like it came out, that's like definitely my first like run-in with music. I didn't really put anything into practice until I got into high school, though. That's when I took music a bit more serious, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the first time I used FL, I was probably in like grade 6, and I didn't even know, like, I gave up. Like in the first like day, I definitely gave up on it.
Yeah. When did you start getting into like actual, creating the instrumentals? Like, you talk about, I know you have songwriting credits, and you are a songwriter, as well as a producer.
Yes.
Which one came first? Like, which one did one take over? Are you always kind of going back and forth, or is there one that you're more focused on?
I definitely feel like I'm always going back and forth. Right now, I probably do a bit more like production than songwriting, just because that's kind of what falls into my lap. But when starting off, like it was definitely a good blend. And then eventually, like I signed my first publishing deal. So I kind of put like, I could still submit demos, but I was signed to a writer. So there was no point of me really trying to push demos. Like I just focused on beats from there. But overall, like I just try to be a whole part of the song. A lot of times I hop in the session and I can kind of see like if I need to step in on the writing end, and that's like, so I make my way available in those situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And timeline wise, when did you say you actually started making beats and getting more into it? And when did it start getting like serious for you? Was there ever a point where it was just like, okay, I'm kind of seeing it out, and then was there a tipping point, or were you always super serious about it?
Okay, yeah. I started producing when I was probably around 15, 16. And so I was producing for a bit, and then I eventually like started putting out my own songs as an artist, like as a rapper. And I was getting a good response from that. Like I put a couple years into the rapping before I released any music. And then once the response was there, it was just like, it was encouraging. So I just continued to do like rapping and producing. And it just became a point in my life where it was like, this is like what I'm good at. Like it wasn't like, I just started taking it serious because I was getting results, I would say. There wasn't anything like really set in stone, but it was the results that kind of was like, yo, I love doing this. There's nothing that makes me more happy, So I just started taking it serious, and putting all my time into it.
Mm-hmm. And when was your first, bigger placement, would you say? And when that happened, what was the mindset like when it happened, when you got your other placements, when you started working with bigger people? Was there kind of like, did it start getting on a roll, or was it kind of on and off? What was the feeling like? Kind of talk to me about that, and how that felt for you.
Okay, yeah, I would say definitely the Chris records I've done. Like I've done 2 for Chris, and those were probably like my first major placements. Before that, I had done a couple independent artists, and like I have records that had done well, but like people still didn't really know the artist as much as Chris. So those were definitely my first majors. 2017 is when the album came out. I did those songs like 2 to 3 years prior. And so I kind of was using the leverage that I had these songs in the tuck to kind of like network a little bit. But I definitely had a big gap because like once I had those records, I was told I had so-and-so in the tuck. And when it came down to it, like I was kind of relying on someone else instead of what I should be doing for myself. So I was kind of relying on some songs to come out, and they didn't come out. And thankfully, like, I got a lot of support from like the city. So like we have SoCan as our PRO. And so by the time like those records didn't come out, I kind of got involved a little bit with SoCan, and they pretty much had this thing called Song Camp Mondays, and they were doing it virtually like last year for a bit. But they used to have like this song camp. Anyone could sign up for it. Like if you're from Canada, SoCan. And they'll they have like a studio in their like office. So it's like they have an office set up, and they had like one room dedicated as a studio, and they would put together these song camps like literally in their office. So you're like working in an office space where there's like a setup you could use. And they're obviously like during office hours. So they would set up these writing camps, and they were just introducing me to more and more people in the city. And so when I thought the ball was like going to stop, like I was just introduced to more and more artists and just like found a way to network on my own as opposed to, just relying on the few resources I had at that time. I really didn't network much like prior to that, I would say.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. And when you say you didn't network much prior to that, was there something about that caused you to network more? Was there people around that were doing it more and you learned it from there, or it just kind of naturally progressed that way?
Man, I would say I was learning from a lot of like local artists in the town that I'm from. Like the town I'm from is Ajax, so it's like home to Boy Wonder and T Minus. And there's some rappers from here I was working with at the time. And, I was kind of like, I worked with so many people like starting off. I was a little turned off from networking because there was a lot of ego involved, and I didn't really know how to deal with it. I was just like, yo, let me stay home and cook up or, figure something out. And so I was just like, I wasn't trying to network for a while. And then SoCan like kind of brought back like that kind of, I don't know how to describe it, but like every producer needs to find new artists to kind of grow with and, see what you can do with the artist. So they were A&Ring a bunch of sessions, and that's kind of what got me back into it. And then from there, I was like, oh, the ball is rolling. And so I just kind of used that like as leverage that I'm working with so many different people in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And I think you touched on something pretty common with producers, at least, which is that idea of like egos and things like that kind of ruining networking and just sessions for people and relationships for people. How once you felt like you were at least dealing with some of that and you kind of, went kind of into your own shell almost. I don't want to call it that, but, you're just doing your own thing. What kind of things would you say to people that have had experiences like that have turned them off from, networking or get, the positive sides of those things? Do you have any advice that would help them kind of get maybe out of that a little more, or things they can do to maybe build better relationships? or is it more of just a patience thing?
It could be a little bit of both. I feel like patience is important. I feel like you definitely got to go out there and just network a bit and work with other people to get better. You know, you're not going to get better by yourself or just by going on YouTube. You learn from like real life experiences. So of course, egos are going to come with that. You just gotta kind of need to be prepared for that. And you don't always got to think like things are like someone's going to be an asshole or anything like that. Sometimes you're going to work with people that you're going to mesh really well with, and those are the things I look forward to as well. You know, I don't experience it like anymore, but there was definitely a time like where, you know, I was in some situations that I was not comfortable with, and you just got to be strong enough to kind of get through it, just push through it, just like anything in life. You know, you're working hard towards, you know. Yeah, and in the end, like the reward is like you become more comfortable when you come in a room with people you're not aware of, because you know how you need to move in those rooms, you know.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely something that was people always stress to me, because I was one of those people where I wasn't networking in person a lot at all. I was just kind of doing everything online. I knew a bunch of like, producers and artists all through the internet, but I hadn't gone and networked much in terms of studios or done any of that. So when I finally went to LA, that was one of the biggest career changing, or just like it was such a necessary move. I was there for like 3 weeks, but it was already so
Oh, you
effective.
got
That's
some
where,
good time out there.
yeah,
Experience is
yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, it was good. I didn't even know initially. I wasn't like, I didn't even book a ticket back initially. I didn't know how long I'd be there, but I like that extra week was definitely a little extra, but no, I got a bunch of, it was great. Uh, and I hear people say it all the time. So I just needed that extra push. And when I talk to other producers I look up to, that was the one thing they kept saying, is just like, it's time to just go and get out there and meet these people in person, just show your face.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely when you realize like there's so many people just like you know, there's good people out there trying to like, you know, make some hits, and going out there and realizing that is like, it's a big change from like coming from like the small town I'm from to like go out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a big leap for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. Um, if you could remove, I usually ask this question later if I do ask it, but I am kind of curious. If you could remove all like barriers and constraints, what project would you um, undertake if you didn't have any like barriers, like current barriers or constraints that you might have towards it, whether that's financial or anything? What project or projects would you seek to go about completing?
Are we talking about like musical projects, or what do you mean in that
Uh,
sense?
that's a good question. Honestly, anything. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be music.
Okay, I mean, like I feel like some of the stuff I was chasing before, like I've always wanted that Billboard #1. Like, you know, the Grammys and stuff like that, that's kind of like subjective, right? Because there's a group of people
Yeah.
choosing that, but the #1 is kind of indefinite. You know, it's set in stone. So I always used to want that, and now that I'm getting older, I feel like, yo, that's such like a superficial goal. You know, I wanted it so bad since I was like 15, like studying the charts, and I feel like I want to do something to change the industry now, like something to make it better for the creators, like in
Right.
terms of like just how, you know, the Spotify like royalty payout for artists is like, it's a finesse, you know.
Yeah,
I
it's
also
crazy.
feel, yeah, I also feel like, yo, to make it through though, you can't make it easy for everyone. You know, it can't be like
Yeah.
that easy to get everything you want fairly, like owning your masters or something like that. I feel like you kind
Hmm.
of still need to work towards those points, but just in terms of like the way the label kind of deals are, and of course there needs to be some sort of structure, you know. But I feel like the people in the business side are making much more than the people on the creative end, and I feel like
Yeah.
I would want to do something to make more of a balance, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I hear that a lot nowadays too. Like I feel like there's a lot of, maybe not movements, but a lot of awareness being shed on that problem in many different areas, right? Including where, the Spotify payout for producers. Um, yeah, it's really crazy to see. It's weird. I don't know. Like when I think about it, you wouldn't think that would be the case, but it is crazy that that's the case. Um, Yeah, yeah. I wonder what kinds of things would even like help that change or push towards that change.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like some kind of laws that would need to be changed, you know.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
yeah, it's definitely bigger than one person. It's definitely going to require
Yeah,
like, you know, a team to pull something to make a real shift, you know.
yeah. What are some challenges you had, coming up? Even, I mean, it could even be recent challenges. And again, it doesn't have to be music. It could be really related to anything. And how did you overcome these challenges that you were presented? That sounds like a job interview question, but
Yeah, yeah, no, it definitely sounds like a job interview question. Um, so some of the challenges coming up, let's see. I feel like this is still a common problem in Toronto. Is like there's like a lack of accessible and affordable studios in comparison to like the
Hmm.
hubs. Like obviously LA, you know, there's studios everywhere, but I mean, for the most part, when I was coming up, like a lot of people are working out of home setups, or there's a few studios that you could rent, and we still don't have that many studios. So in terms of like really just working with others and building like that community in the city, um, just more accessible and affordable studios. We do have studios now, and there's more and more like popping up, but it's still like it's not cheap. Real estate in Toronto is like really
Yeah.
expensive, so that's definitely one of the barriers coming up. I also think on the writing end, like there was a time where you know people weren't collaborating as much in terms of writing, so I feel
Hmm.
like people were always just trying to, you know, you're writing a song or a rap song and you're trying to get off a verse, but everyone's like competing with each other, trying to see who's coming up with the best
Yeah.
verse instead of like really trying to put together the best song. I feel like that's definitely changed, but that was like one of the barriers I was facing. Um, Even like FL, man, like when I started using FL, like I never used a VST for like 3 years. I didn't know VSTs
Whoa. That's
existed.
crazy.
Yeah, I was using like these things called like Soundfonts or whatever, and
Right.
you'd have to dig for them in FL.
Yeah. That's so crazy, man. Yeah. I remember sound fonts. I'd almost forgotten about them.
Yeah,
Uh
like that compared to what we have now and access to, like that, I feel like that was kind of like a barrier, you know, like we're using such computer generated sounds.
bro, it was crazy, man. For me, like I was producing around the time where I just saw kind of the verge of like things not being as accessible to just an maybe not an abundance, but it started going towards an abundance. Like even online tutorials, I remember trying to look up things when I first started and I couldn't find the right tutorials. There was like no one really spilling any secrets or any sauce or
Right now
anything.
it's beautiful, like it's
Oh,
open and
bro. It's actually insane how much information. It's endless now. Um, but yeah, I remember like back then there was a time where I hit up like I hit up a producer in Toronto. This is when I was like really young. I barely even really started producing. I was just trying to see what's up. And I couldn't get my mixes to sound great. So I hit up this producer from Toronto on Facebook. He'd produce for Russell or D Pride, he used to go
oh yeah,
by.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah. So
familiar with
K
them.
like yeah, yeah, yeah. So K Beats or Kyle, I don't know what if he goes by Kyle Beats now or what
I think
he.
he goes by like Kyle. You made that now.
Oh yeah, that's what it. Yeah, what am I talking about, bro? He was going viral on TikTok of like from these sounds that he'd made. But yeah, I'd message him on Facebook. Like he had like a Facebook fan page, and I was like, "Yo, how do you get your mixes right? All this shit." So he'd given me a bunch of tips.
Oh, that's
But that
dope.
was yeah. I was so surprised he even replied. It was so like shout out to him.
Yeah, some
Um,
producers have a good heart, man. Like that's always
yeah.
a blessing, you know, to share anything.
Oh, absolutely, man. And I find that usually producers that are like that are super like that. Like they're very, very giving and they're always trying to, help others out versus just like a one time thing. Um, when you're trying to learn new skills, is there any sorts of things you've picked up over the years that have helped you learn things better as you go around? Or is there not necessarily like a process? You just have to kind of figure it out for each individual thing.
I feel like I always like learn with the people I have around me, especially people who are like a bit more musical than me, because then I'm kind of learning like just certain techniques of how they're like playing the guitar, in terms of like being open or like strumming, just different techniques, or even like I'm gonna freeze up on this, but like just
No, you're good.
even how you play the drum set, you know, how the velocity changes or the panning kind of goes on that. Like that's kind of like how I've been learning, you know, just like that's.
Yeah. That's a good. I mean, that makes sense. It makes total sense.
I feel like I might have lost the question on that one. My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. I was just asking like the best, or what kinds of things have you picked up over the years that, you know, help you learn? Like what kinds of things might you do to help learn a new thing?
Yeah, definitely like the playing technique, because then you know how to, like, if you're not using like the real thing, you know what you should be imitating. Kind of like I'm saying, when you're playing the guitar, like you can't imitate some of the nicks that you're hitting it, or the glides, you know, like things like that. So,
Right.
and then just incorporating more of like live things around me that you can record, in terms of like, instead of using like computerized percussion, like one shots, like creating your own kind of thing, adding those.
What does that look like for you?
Though. What's that?
What does that look like for you when you are using, you know, creating your own sounds or using things around you? What might that look like?
It just gives my sound more of a live feel, because I'm probably going to use like maybe like a process like snare or something on it, and then I want kind of have more live elements, but you can't really get that from like the perks and stuff on the computer. You know, I feel like by recording certain things, you know, definitely makes it sound more realistic to me, you know, or more of a humanistic kind of feel.
What's your main focus right now? I know you said you're more focused on producing. So what does that usually look like for you? Are you sending beats out? Are you in sessions a lot?
Okay, yeah, this is a good question.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like the only time I'm really cooking up is if I have a writer or an artist with me. Like I don't really have the time as much as I used to really sit there and make beats. I do feel like the best shit comes out when you're making stuff for yourself, you know, but
yeah.
Just because it's like, if I make something with someone, then I'll have like a song, or like Hex might have the beat or a sample, you know, like at the end of the day. So then that song could go three ways, instead of me making the beat and hoping it goes somewhere. I know it's already has a demo on it. Then it already has the pockets for another artist. If they don't, we don't move that demo, another artist might be able to use it, because we've created a whole vibe on it already. It's got to be easy for someone else to. So that's pretty much like my process of creating these days. Mostly like that's the only time I'm really working on beats, but I might send those beats out later, you know, in a pack or something like that. But I'm really bad at sending packs, for sure. It's really hard to keep on top of that.
Yeah. When you're making demos, like what kind of relationships do you have with people that, you know, when you're sending them out, is there a lot of people you send demos out to? Is there a very select few that you might be sending them out to? What does that process look like?
Okay, yeah. I feel like sending out demos is like definitely harder than sending out beats or sending out samples, you know, because it has like a firm idea already on the song. Yeah. And so I usually I might just have a folder of demos that I've made recently. A lot of times it's like I'm going to have the play, or the writer's going to have the play. So I'm going to send it to someone specific, or I'll send it to a specific artist. There's not always like a set person that I'm sending stuff to. It's like, if the opportunity is like worth going for, and we have like good relationships with the team or the artist, you know, then we're going to work on it and send it directly. I've never really found like an A&R that is going to place a demo like that. That's really rough.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Like I've definitely placed demos, but on a smaller scale, like lower budget kind of thing.
For sure.
And sometimes we got to take those L's, you know. We don't want a song sitting there for too long, so I'm just
Yeah,
with it.
no, exactly. No, I'm all about that. Um, who are your top 5 sample makers or producers? You know, whichever
Okay.
ones you want to go with.
Damn, top 5. I should have thought about this before we hopped on, you know? Um, all right, let's start with, I'm a big Dark Child fan.
Yeah.
Dark Child's up there. Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones, big. So some of like these producers, like even Max Martin on this list, a lot of these producers, I feel like, or Quincy Jones, right? He's putting out his own like projects as an artist, and I feel like that's so much more relatable for me. You know, I look up to that shit a lot. You know,
Right.
someone that's doing everything. I feel like we see less of it. You know.
That's
Um,
true.
and then I'm gonna throw T minus on there because Ajax.
Yeah.
You know, gotta
Yeah.
hold it
Bro, I
down.
didn't know T Minus and Boy Wonder were both from Ajax.
Yes, sir.
That's crazy. Those are such goated producers right there.
They're from Ajax. I think they like might live somewhere else right now, but you know.
Yeah, still. No, that's cool. Sorry, I
Um,
interrupted you. You had T Minus.
Quincy Jones, Dark Child, um, David Foster, Canadian legend. Gotta have one more, eh? Damn.
Yeah.
I don't know who this last one should be.
It doesn't have to be 5. It doesn't have to be
All right.
5.
Txpski. I like that guy, Txpski.
He's
number
cool.
5.
That's good. That works for me. And what is your when you're making, let's say, a demo, is it always your beat, or are you going to be making demos off, you know, all kinds of instrumentals, whatever works?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. I would say from up to now, like 2023, it's been only my stuff. Like, but now I have a lot more producers that I have like an agreement with. So they're sending me stuff, but most of the time I need to pull it together. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's not like a knock to them or anything, but I just find like when I'm working on something, I always find something that I need to bring up to
Yeah.
kind of like where I want it to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I have like a few producers that it's nice because I'm getting even more and more demos back, and it's great.
Yeah. Dope. Um, what are your top projects? And it doesn't have to necessarily be top 5. I'm just kind of curious, like, or do you even view music in that way where you're like, oh yeah, these are my top favorite projects?
Oh shit, no, that's cool. Man, I need to come prepared with these answers so when
No,
people
you're
like
good.
really hook me up one day, they're gonna be like they'll know like the real inspirations. But I do have
Yeah.
like I love a good project. I feel like we don't have enough projects that stick around for a long time anymore.
Yeah,
Not
it's
like
true.
it's not that all music's bad. It's just like there's so much to consume in like such little time these days. Our
Mm-hmm.
attention doesn't really stick towards something. But some of the projects I would say that really like it has inspired me and that I really like and just kind of keep me motivated. I would say like Brandy's self-titled album, like Brandy. Um, that's my shit. Drake Take Care, that was like a big album for me.
Yeah, man. Huge.
It's a big time in my life.
Yeah.
And then House of Balloons, Weekend, J. Cole, like the warm up or Friday Night Lights. Like that's like
Mm,
2011, like even like Frank Ocean, like Channel Orange or Nostalgia Ultra, like
yeah.
I feel like I named a good amount of like stuff that's like really, really inspired me. So
No, that's perfect. Those are some really solid projects. Take Care has always been, it's always been number 1 for me.
really,
Um,
that's good. We're brothers now.
yeah, exactly. No, Take Care was always number 1 for me, bro. Like, yeah, yeah, for sure. That's
Yeah,
cool to
I feel
hear
like
that.
we didn't hear anything like that when that came out. You know, of course,
Yeah,
the music like has essence of it. You know, but like that was
for
like the
sure.
first time I feel like we were introduced to those sonics. You know.
No, for sure, man. And the memories I have that play when I hear, like, I can pinpoint memories for every single song. That whole project was instrumental. Like, I remember, I think I was on a basketball team. We'd always be going to tournaments around that time, and that album was just like the theme
It's on
album of that.
repeat, man.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah. I guess I'll ask. I mean, who do you go to when you're lost? Like, um, depends on. I know it could be for different things. Like, I know some people have people they go to for music if they're feeling musically lost. You know, whether it's in their life or whatever. But do you have people around you that you go to, or are there certain practices you might do if you're kind of feeling lost or, you know, need some clarity or something? Are there things that you do to figure that out for yourself, if you even get into those moments? I know some people don't.
Man, I definitely like I have a like I'm close with my family. I got some like good close friends, but I don't really see my close friends often. It's definitely I'm definitely seeing more music cats than my close friends and my family. But
Yeah.
I feel like the gym kind of keeps me grounded. Um, and like recently, I think we were talking about like some of our disadvantages. So like about a month ago, like I got hit like in the head playing volleyball, and like I lost like hearing in a bit in my right ear,
Damn.
and so I went to the doctors. I went to two walk-ins to like verify, and they're like, yeah, there's a hole in your eardrum, and so like
Yo.
yeah, I got a hole in my eardrum right now, and they pretty much said it will take like you know a couple months, like not a very long time to like heal itself.
Yeah.
So like my hearing, like I've been doing some sessions, and like I can't hear as well. So even when I'm by myself, I'm taking so long to do things. And like pretty much like my creative friends as well, like people like MIKExANGEL and K Notes, like they're like they kind of inspire me because they're like, yo, that's your money makers. You got to protect it, you know? So like I always feel like even on all ends, like
Mm,
between like family, friends, and like creatives that I work with, you know, I feel like I have a good support system, you know? Um, so even when I don't feel like going, it's like it's normal. Like we always just keep going, you know.
yeah. Yeah. Talk to me about MIKExANGEL, man. Like, I'm j- did he have a song or like a bunch of collaborations with Trey Songs, or am I tripping? Is that the wrong person?
Yeah, yeah, that's who MIKExANGEL is.
Okay.
Honestly, like yeah, he's written for quite a few people. And he was signed at like 300 as an artist at one point.
Okay.
Um, I'm probably not the like best person to like be speaking about his like career trip, like his whole like career history, but yeah,
Yeah.
actually like I reached out to him like I think at one point I was like looking for a lot of like more artists to work with. So I reached out to him, and he actually like he's seen it. He's seen it, and but he just left me on scene, and it's cool. I hope he sees this like and
Yeah.
it turned out like within like I feel like stuff like this happens a lot to me, but within like a couple of like months, like we were like flown out to like work on this artist project. So they flew me to like Memphis, and they flew him out as the writer. And we were like, so we're on the same flight. And so by the end of the flight, like we actually like meet each other, and he was mad cool. And it's so funny because like I literally reached out to him. He
Yeah.
probably like if we didn't work, he probably wouldn't have messed with me, you know. And like we became like
Uh,
good friends after that. So that's just kind of it's funny how things work, you know.
yeah. Well, so that's what I was curious about. So they had flown you guys out, and that's how you guys actually had linked up.
Yeah, they
That's cool.
like an independent kind of label.
Yeah. No, that's what I want to ask. That's a cool way to meet someone, and that is really interesting that you had reached out a few months before.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I feel like things go the same way. I feel like there's people that reached out to me, and then like then I meet them, and then I don't even know the whole time. So but I
yeah,
know he had me on scene. It's all good.
that's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most like important exercises I did, this was like 2 3 years ago when I first started really working with artists in the studio, like really writing songs, working on the actual details of the song, um, and the bigger parts. So the lesson that I learned, I'd structured a beat after this like top, you know, Billboard song that I'd really been enjoying. And when I actually attempted to structure it through it, like using it, it was so interesting to actually see. Like I had a vague idea of the structure, but when I actually built the beat out around it, it was so crazy to see all the things that I wasn't doing before that helped me see like, oh, you know, this is arguably a simple structure like in the overall, but the little things they did within the structure to keep the song interesting all the way to the very end was a huge learning experience for me. um
So, I mean, I feel that 100%. A lot of stuff that we like is simple, you know, but they do keep it. You got to find a way to keep something interesting, you know, for sure.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that really just like, I always knew that structure was important and I would emphasize it, but I always would like, I guess, underappreciate it for a long. I had underappreciated structure for a very long time. Like
I
it can
mean,
make a
we're kind
really
of
big
blessed today
difference.
too, because you know, I feel like sometimes, like in a lot of situations, if you're working with, depending what kind of artists, like sometimes we're not producing the song, like the engineers with the artist producing the song, you know, so
Mhm.
they can kind of, the artists themselves are smart enough to kind of like they can structure it themselves too. So there's always like blessed situations like that where you know you might
That's
just
true.
only have like two sections on a beat, but like they can move everything where they need to, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on? Like I get, yeah, like you've hit honestly a bunch of the things that I'd asked. Actually, one thing I am curious about is equipment wise. Is there like a piece of equipment other than maybe your computer or whatever you cook up on that you would say is like kind of, I don't want to say your prized possession, but something you really stand by?
Um, I like my interface is like the Babyface Pro. That's been doing me pretty
Mm,
solid for the time being. Yeah, definitely. It's probably the Babyface Pro out of like my whole
yeah,
setup. Like that thing's like it's so easy to like just travel with it, you know. So
that's dope.
yeah.
Yeah. And actually, on the note of traveling too, is there any tips you have for producers that are starting to travel or music people in the music industry that want to travel? Is there any things that they should keep in mind or be aware of as they start to do that?
Um, like I would say, I feel like we all feel this way. If you're going to LA for like a duration of time, just have a daily budget. You know, you want to know how
Yeah,
much you're going to be spending on food, travel, and like just even staying out there can add up. So just kind of being financially like aware when you're going on these trips. But I also feel like it's important to like you know let people know you're going out there. Don't be afraid to reach out. The worst thing that can happen is like you don't link up with someone. Um, and then just kind of go there in the mindset knowing that maybe someone may flop. You might need to plan like 2 sessions, 3 sessions a day just to kind of be aware of like it's real life. You know, people might even
yeah,
have to cancel for like emergency situations. You know, you just got to be understandable and be able to like kind of pivot. You know, when you're traveling.
yeah. No, for sure. When I was there, there was a guy that I'd planned a session with, and I told some of the other guys I was working with that I'd planned a session with him, and they're like, "Did he respond like today?" I was like, "No," and I was like, they were like, "Yeah, that's on point for him. Like that's what he does." I was like, "Okay." I mean, I did end up getting in the studio with him. It was just kind of funny to see that. Yeah, there's people that are just kind of known there for flopping, and just the original plan is not going to be the final plan. Um, but yeah, no, there's, I mean, definitely a learning experience. I'd gotten a bunch of tips beforehand from people, but obviously going down there yourself and doing that yourself is the best way to learn.
Yeah, man.
Um,
You gotta let me know when you're coming out here.
yeah, absolutely, man. So where are you? Did you say you're still in Ajax or you're just in
Yeah,
Toronto now? Like,
I'm still in Ajax. We got a studio in
cool.
Scarborough, and then whenever people are downtown, like always rent out a spot down there. But yeah,
Yeah.
for the most part, I'm in the East End. Oh, I want to know how do you feel about like the current environment of music, and you know where do you see it like kind of going in the future? You know, like especially with this AI shit right now, because this a lot
Bruh.
of the AI stuff is got me like you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, man. I think that's such an interesting thing. Like, Because when I started to really see it, and so I'd start to bring it up to people and be like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" Because for me too, I was very, very skeptical. I'm still very skeptical. I'm like, there's so many if, ands, or buts, like a lot of potentials that could happen with this. Even if we talk within music, that in itself is really crazy. What could happen? There's already music AIs that are, making some pretty crazy stuff right now. Um, and then outside of that, just like everyday life, there's so many potential impacts it could have. I think that a lot of people are like underestimating what it can possibly like potentially do. Because I talk to people and they're like, yeah, it's okay. Like it's just technology, and every time we improve technology, we improve their lives. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. This one feels definitely a little bit different to me personally.
I feel like if it doesn't take over, like it's going to be necessary to incorporate it in your workflow. Because even
Yeah.
like me, like a couple years ago, I wasn't like so keen on using things like Scalar and all those like
Yeah, I feel
plugins and
you.
stuff. But like I feel like there's some people that have used those to like a lot of their potential. Um, so I feel like it's definitely going to be a part of music, even with the way it's like creating songs right now. Is like
Yeah.
it's insane.
It's
I think we were talking earlier about like our kind of like what we want to do with it, or like our goals and where we see
yeah.
it taking music. So this is kind of like right now, like where I'm at. Um, Definitely want to get into the international bag. Got my first sync placement last year, so I definitely want to do more of that. And then I'm
Yo,
putting out
nice.
my own music again. Like I used to release music, but as an artist. But now it's this time it's like songs I've produced or co-written kind of thing. So because I'm sitting on so many of them, um, I'm gonna put them out. And I've always wanted to do this. I've been applying to like a few programs to try to get the grant money so that I could have a successful release. But I feel like at the same time, I think the music's good, and um, with the little push on my end, I think that they'll do some numbers, and that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, is like experiencing like what it's like to release music as an artist in 2023. Because we also
Mm,
definitely see a lot of these producers, they get to branch off and do their DJ sets, and I think just
yeah.
having my own records out there, just kind of opening that door a bit. Um, and Yeah, no, I'm excited to see how people like actually receive the music I put out. Um, I'm looking toward doing some kind of distribution like at this time. So
hmm
just like a different aspect than like just being the producer, trying to put out my own stuff for a bit.
Yeah. Actually, before I want to touch on that for sure, I want to ask quickly about your sync placement. What was your sync placement?
So I got a sync placement in P Valley. It's like on the Stars Network.
Oh,
It's
cool.
a Yeah, it's a pretty cool show. And it was with an artist I work with, Porcelain.
Mm,
Um, so it was pretty much through like an independent label. Like had their I forget the right word for it, but they were definitely working with like the sync team on with another company. I think they had an agreement with or something like that. And um, yeah, definitely the first sync placement, and I've learned a lot from it because even though I'm like super proud that I got a sync, um, like you can go watch the episode and like the music is so tucked in the background.
oh,
So it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I got a W because like they have it, like they're even promoting it um, on like the Stars Network, like that
Yeah.
they have like the song track list for the episode and stuff like that. But it
Right.
was tucked in the background, and so I also learned that like you'll get paid more if it's like off like the kind of the royalty payouts are more if the song is more prominent. So that
Yeah. Fair.
I didn't know that. So it makes
Yeah.
sense. It's only right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, man, for sure. You know,
No, I'm gonna send you the ones I have right now. Like I have like
yeah, send those through, bro.
send me a
Send those
couple of
through.
different. I got
I
someone like on the mixing end, and I'm like the mixing. I feel like is like such an important aspect on music because it puts everything in the right space.
yeah.
And so having like my songs actually like mixed, like I'm happy for that too.
For sure, man. Okay, yeah, send those through. I'm really excited to hear it. I think I've heard like a bit of your stuff on Twitter, but it was such a small snippet, so I'm looking
Oh, you
forward
tell
to.
me, yeah. probably hear a couple of snippets on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm going fishing when I do that.
For sure. Like I said, if there's anything else you want to say, or you can also plug yourself now again, or like the full links or whatever if you want now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm at Txpski on all socials. Yeah, just, and it's Txpski. That's how you pronounce the name.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time, bro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I'm glad we could do this.